Okay, welcome back, and it's COMP123, Week 8, Lesson 8, Part 6 of this series, right? And we're talking about files and streams, and we're kind of into that first piece. I don't mind if I take a little bit slower on this stuff because I need you guys to understand files and streams. And you know what? It's a great opportunity for us to explore menus and exception handling. Okay, so here we are with the program we've been working on until now. So I had a bit of an error. I still have a problem here, right? Because what I'm doing here in my main code is I'm allowing the user to make an entry right here, right? This could potentially cause a problem, right? So here is a great opportunity for me to use a try-catch block, where if the user doesn't enter the proper selection, make the proper selection, as an example, it's going to kick us out of this thing and ask him to make the proper selection again. All right, so that's something that we kind of have to do, right? So kind of check to see if this selection is made. So here's the question for you: do we do a try-catch block around this? Is this the proper thing to do, like in here, or just around this? Like how much of my try-catch block am I wanting to check out, right? Well, my recommendation to you is that as soon as we if it's some kind of default, so here's my default, incorrect entry, please try again, right? I'm going to do this console.writeLine. I'm probably going to want to call my wait for key again, right? Because otherwise it's going to just show that and it's going to go poof, it's going to be gone again. So we want to kind of do a wait for key, right, in here, right, to kind of to continue. So that's one thing. So I know this is going to kick off, and I want to use my loop, my switch statement here. I know that selection is waiting for anything that's not 3 right now, right? So if I do a try-catch block, I can just, if I wanted to, just put it around this little section that talks about my selection. So I only target my selection, right? This way I know what the problem is. So let's do a little try-catch block. So I'm just going to kind of do in here. This is one way to do it. Try, right, as an example. And I'm going to put my code block in here. I'll do a catch, right? Here's my catch. And my try and catch, I'm going to put in my selection. So I'm going to try and do my selection, right? And put that in my try-catch block. Hey, this is all for your homework, okay? Here's my selection, right? And if I can do this, it's going to continue giving my selection here, my switch. If I can't do this, what am I going to do? Right? Well, I got to set my selection to 0. That's the right thing for me to do. So when I'm in here, I should really set my selection, because I'm trying to read my selection. I want to set it to 0 to make sure that it definitely doesn't fit, because 0 has nothing to do with these menu options, 1, 2, and 3. I'm not never checking for 0. 0 would come into this default, right? 0 would go into this, so that it's going to say, incorrect entry, please try again, because it's a 0, right, as a selection. That's good. That's a good thing. So I'm actually making it give me that result. That's the first thing. So I don't really have to do anything else in here into my catch block. I should really check for an exception. Now there's different kinds of exceptions. So if I just do exception, this is my catch-all. Remember, my catch-all exception is the word exception, and it's an error of some sort, right? If I want to show the message, right, let's just do a console.writeLine for us for now. So here's a console.writeLine, and let's show the error. Remember, we use the special message property of the error, right, to show the type of message in a short form way. We're going to just do this for debugging purposes. Oops. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Debugging, right? We're going to take this away in a second. All right, so we're going to try and make our selection. We do a try-catch block, and we select our selection as 0, and we're going to try and make it so that the exception is going to show for us for now. Okay, let's try and run this. Here's our selection. I'm going to make a weird selection, right? Press enter. It's going to say input string was not in a correct format. Input string. So really, that's one thing we can do. And if I press spacebar again, it's going to take us back to our menu. So it won't crash my code anymore, right? Because my try-catch block won't allow my code to crash. What if I do a mixture of characters like this? Something. Input string was not in the correct format. Let's try it again. C:\\. Input string is not in the correct format. What if I try and do some kind of statement? Console.writeLine. I'm doing some injection. right? Hello. Input string was not in the correct format. It wouldn't allow it, right? So no matter what I try and do, I'm trying to, do stuff. It won't allow me to go forward. So I know that I already have a statement down here that says incorrect entry, please try again, or please make incorrect entry, please try again is going to take me back up, right? So let me just get rid of some of these spaces here because I don't need so many spaces between my try catch block. Ooh, I'm also still debugging. Let's just get out of there. All right. And we don't need this message anymore, right? Because we know what the message is going to be. We can just ignore the exception error. We'll just read it. But right now, we don't have to use it, right? We're suppressing the message altogether. And we're catching all. I could put in some kind of string exception. So if I start typing string exception, end of stream exception, that's one, right? How about if I start typing input? If you notice, it's going to give me some kind of context for exceptions. Input exception. If I start typing exception, right, it gives me all the exceptions. So it says duplicate wait object exception, argument exception, argument null, array type of different exception, directory not found exception, right, if I'm checking for a directory, right, end of stream exception, right, these are cool. File load exception. So these are things. Here's my format exception. I wonder if that will do it for me. So let's see, format exception is an error, right? And let's do this error message. So let's see if the format exceptions is what it is, right? If I'm trying to do a format exception. Console.writeLine, say error.message again. For debugging purposes, let's see if I've caught the right exception. Right, so enter. Input string was not in the correct format, and it did catch it, which means this is the right exception, a format exception for my string. So if I want to be targeting the exact thing, it's the format exception I'm targeting. Why? I don't have to go with the catch-all exception string if I don't want to. Now, you might say, Tom, who cares? Right? If I use the exception, it'll catch everything, right? But I can target certain things. If I know, I can say, for my format exception in here, instead of doing my default down here, right, for incorrect entry, please try again, I could put this here, right, in my catch-all. So I don't have to do that. I don't have to even go through my switch statement here at all. It won't even go there. It'll pass by my switch statement altogether. I don't even have to put a selection at all in here, right? I can have to set my selection. I just have to basically, it'll just go to my catch statement and it'll go and regenerate this thing again. All right, so that's one way of doing it. So there's different ways of doing things. I've just got a double, I'm catching it twice. I'm catching it here, and I'm pumping out the error over here, right? That's all I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it as is, so you can decide what you want to do. Both methods are correct. And also, it's nothing wrong with, instead of specifying a format exception, unless you're going to do something special here for a format exception over a regular exception, just leave it as exception. Unless you really want to give a specialized message back to the user, is what I'm saying. Which in our case, we don't need to give a specialized message because we have a switch statement that does that for us. Right? Here's a question. Why wouldn't I do all this in my try block? Right? Well, I could, right? I could, but which means my switch statement would never kick off. I would never test for anything again. It would never go into my switch statement, right? But the reason why I want to do it, again, coding works in different ways. You could try coding it the other way as well, and it would still work. My recommendation is you just throw a try-catch block around the place as close as possible in the area that you need. Okay? Okay, so try-catch blocks. We kind of redid that thing again. All right, I'm good. I like this, what I've got going on here. I've got a bit of protection, so I'm going to check my files. I'm going to check my folders. I've got a framework for us to continue with the PowerPoint presentation. And you know what? This is all fine and dandy, but you know, I don't really like the fact that it's inside my main. I'm going to extract this thing into its own method. So I'm going to kind of do this whole thing here, right? And I'm going to kind of go all the way to the bottom, right down here. So I'm including all of this. Shouldn't include this piece here. My console.clear. So everything that's inside here except for my static main, right? I'm going to right click, refactor, and go extract method. And of course it doesn't give me, it says the selected text cannot contain statements in different blocks. Yeah, because I've got 2 different blocks going on. Let's try this again. So just all this, only my while loop, which is just to here, if I'm not wrong. Let's check that out. Make sure that's correct. Yes. Let's try that out again. And if not, I can do it manually too. Good. So I'm going to call this thing kind of menu. It's got to be a menu, right? This is my main menu. So maybe I'll call this main menu, right? Press OK. And now in my main, that's all I got, main menu, right? And it calls this. And inside here, right, it calls these 2 methods. So I'm breaking out the methods in different piece parts, right? Let me just save this and put it up on GitHub for you guys. So if you want to look at it, you can see what I'm talking about a little better. So I'm going to changes. I'll say updated or created menu method. Which is what I did, and I added in a try catch block, right? I'm going to go to unsync commits and go sync. Okay, cool. So I've got that up there. You can see it on GitHub if you want to take a look at that. And I'm going to save everything as well. So I've got my menu, and now I want to check it out. I want to try and play with this thing a little bit. Okay, so if I run this thing, this is my little utility I just built, right? So I want to go to folder listing, right? I want to do my folder C:\users/Tom, right? Whoa, okay, all kinds of files, right? I want to look at a specific file that's in here that I can read, like let's say this tslint.json file, this JSON file right here, JSON. So it's tslint.json, that's what I want to load. I'm going to go back there. So I'm going to go again. I want to do check if a file exists. I'm going to say C:\users Tom tslint.json. File doesn't exist. What's going on? How come it's not working? I know it does, right? Because I just looked at it. Let's do another one. So I'm going to go check to see if file exists. I'm going to go, my file is going to be, a star. File doesn't exist. There's no star file. Interesting. All right, let's try folder listing, C:\, and let's just read this boot manager file, bootmgr. See what the hell that is. Let's try and read that one. See if that exists, because we know it's right there. C:\boot manager. All right, so let's try. I'm going to go back to check if file exists. C:\boot manager. Right? Is that how it's spelled? File exists. I did it right the first time, huh? Boot manager. I'm able to do that. But I wasn't able to do this txt thing. How come? How about if I try it again? Check if file exists. And I do this. My text file .text. Incorrect entry. Please try again. Why? Because I put strings. I can't put my quotation marks in. That's a really weird entry for me. My program won't allow it to happen. Okay. I know this thing works, and I know I can go back now and do some of that work that we did before, right, with my file and directory structure that I did here, where I can check to see when the creation time was, my file was created when, file.get creation time, and my file was accessed when, my file access time, and my file get last write time was when, right? I need to know these things. I want to know these details of my file. So file.get creation, get last access, get last write time. Let's do that in my file. So I'm going to go skip down here to my check file. My file exists. I want to do it. I want to stop debugging. Yeah, that's true too. I should probably do that. I want to go back down here and go console. I'm in my check file method, console.writeLine. And in my console.writeLine, I want to do something like this. File something, right? I want to kind of print out something with my file. Here's my file stats, right? File stats. Okay, this is my file stats I'm going to print off, right? And you know what? A console.writeLine. Let's make it pretty. It's my file stats, right? So when's the last time I read it? When's the last time I did that? So console.writeLine, and let's just go with the same kind of pattern. File was created. File was, or create time. Let's do create time. Create time instead of file was created. Plus, and then my file dot get creation time. Right? So we can test it out here. File dot get creation time. All right, and of course I've got to use one of these. File dot get creation time. And if I have to target my file name, which is in this particular case prompt. Right? And I'll do the same thing for my other things. So the next thing is creation time was one, access time was another one. So let's do access time or last access. Okay, it's lining up, which is good. Instead of get creation time, let's go back to here and go get last access. Oops. Last access time. Right? That's all I'm changing there. And let's do one more, right? Because that's what we have in the example. Get last write time. So last write. Make it so it spaces off so they're all lined up, right? And get last write time. Right? Okay, cool. So if it exists, it's going to give me these stats, right? And you know what? Just to make it look even nicer, I'm going to surround it by one of these. And again, you can go as crazy as you want with this stuff. This might not even be long enough, this stuff here, if you notice. The creation time is going to be like in this mode. I may want to add more pluses just to give myself a little bit more spaces. I'm just going to copy this whole thing here just to make sure it's the same instead of me counting. There it is. And let's check it out. I'm going to run it now. Actually, before I do that, I'll go to Team Explorer just for you guys who don't want to type, lazy people, and go to updated check file method, right? Commit, home, and unsync commits, sync. Again, I'm showing you this GitHub stuff over and over again because you're going to have to use this in another course. If you ever have me again, we're going to make GitHub again, right? So might as well show you to over and over again so you're sick of it by the time we're done, right? All right, let's check this out. So I know it exists, so I can go to, I want to do one, check if file exists, C:\\boot manager, enter. All right, cool. File stats. Create time is that, 7/26/2012. That was a while ago, right? A few years ago. Last access, 7/26/2012, 3:51 a.m. in the morning, guys. Last write time was 7/25/2012, 11:44:30. So my file stats all work. I can get file stats from my file. Right? I know. This is my. By the way, this is how my virtual machine was created, 2012, right? Back in the day, for me. There's a couple things I could clean up here if I want it to be nice. If I want to line up my menu, take a look, guys. If you want to be nice with your console application, and you see the way I've outlined my boxes and everything else. If I really want it to be a stickler and I wanted to make this all work out the right way, I could box it up, add some spaces in here, and then match this up with this one and match this up with this one to make the longest one the menu selection I want to make. Right? I could do that. I could outline this, press any key to continue as a little box. I can do all those nice things. I recommend you do so. Why? Because it looks nice. You don't drive your professor crazy, right? With ugly menu selections. And it's good practice for you too. If you're doing your debugging, it's better to do it this way than to make it so that it's unreadable, right? Okay, press any key to continue. Let's do another folder listing. Let's go into that users folder again, right? And if I see my users folder, I've got this desktop.ini file. How come I can't access the file desktop.ini when I have a path to the file, C:\users\desktop.ini. I should be able to put that into my selection. So check-in file exists, right? C:\users\desktop.ini. Enter. File exists, right? Here's my stats. It was created 8/22/2013, so at least a year later, right? At 11:36, 11:34 approximately in the morning. Interesting. Last access, last write was before last create time. Are you guys getting the same stuff on yours? You guys are making it work now. Okay. That's cool. I'm able to get there, but how the hell? How come I can't get into a deeper directory like that other file that I want to read? All right, let's try this again. So folder listing, I want to do C:\users\tom. One more in, right? And I want to read a file within here. I tried to read this tslint.json file, but it didn't allow me to read it. How come? Anyone have an idea why? I know the reason. All right, well, these are my folders, these are my files, and there's a JavaScript file here, JS documents, capital J, capital D, capital C, jsdocuments.js, or sorry, jsdoccomments.js. Okay, let's try and read that one. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say check if file exists, C:\users\tom /JS doc, is that how it is? Comments.js. I don't know if it's lowercase j or uppercase. Let me just check it, just so I don't waste anyone's time. So I'll go back to, although I'm sure I've wasted your time already. But the reason why I'm doing this is because you need to know when you're trying to read a file and you don't know how to why it's not reading, this is a bad thing, right? Because here it is, JS, capital J, capital D, capital C, comments.js. So it doesn't exist right here, right? Capital J, capital D, capital comments.js. Okay, so it should exist. Enter, file exists. I'm able to get in there. 9/2/2014. And then 1/27/2015. Hey, that was pretty recent. Last write. JS.comments, right? So it's pretty recent. Within the last year, one of them, the last write was within the last month, 2 months. No, sorry, I'm still in February. Okay, so it makes sense. So it kind of keeps track of these kind of things. If you notice our menu though, it's working flawlessly, right? So if I put in some weird things, incorrect entry, takes us back to the menu, clears it up. It looks like a real menu system, right? This is actually, it should look very similar to what you would have had back in the 70s when you had a console command like this. This is what you're actually, if the only thing that would be better in this particular case is that the cursor would actually be a cursor, show cursor, and that on the background, your console, you wouldn't be able to clear the screen. Sometimes clear screen wouldn't work on some of these old consoles. So you just keep on going down, 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 down forever. And there was no scroll bar. Once the console's gone, it's gone. Right? Huh? 3.
It's going out of the loop or going out of the...
That's a good question. Let's take a look. So if I go back to my menu, right, here's where I show my menu. I could actually make this a little sub-menu by itself if I really wanted to. I don't have to. It's all part of the same thing, right? But if I make a selection that's 3, what am I doing here? My 3 selection, I'm ignoring it actually, right? I'm printing out a console.writeLine, a little space, right? And if I don't have a case that's 3 though, if I don't have this case, it's going to throw this into the default case, which is going to say, hey, incorrect entry. We want to check for case 3 because case 3 is valid, but it's going to make us escape. Right now, I didn't put anything in there. I'm just making a print console.writeLine. I could say thank you and goodbye. Right? That's another proper thing I could put in there. But for now, I'm just ignoring it. I'm just putting a statement. If I didn't even have this in there, I could just leave this out like this, and it would just break out of the loop too. Both are valid. Right? So once it does that, it carries the selection value 3 down past the switch statement because it's done its thing, pass the switch statement. It's going to hit this semicolon, or sorry, this curly brace, which is attached to the while loop. It's going to check to see if the selection is not 3 and fail, because it is 3, right? And once it fails, it breaks out of this loop and it throws control back into this method, right? This main menu method, which then takes us back. Control flow takes us back into the program and ends.
Right, but if we have more lines of code after exit, then those will execute, right? So don't we have like a function that executes from whole program?
From where?
Like if we have some more code after the main menu,
Yes.
it will execute, right? Because it's only the
If you want to, yeah. We have a console.clear after my switch statement. That's inside the while loop. But after my while loop is exited, in this particular case, my main menu only has really a selection integer, which is a local variable, and a while loop, right? That throws me into the menu. Now it takes me back here. My control is passed. When I'm done the menu, it passes control from this line, right, line 14, to this line, right, line 15. And line 15 is nothing, so it ends the program. See, because whenever I call a method, this is method 101. It changes my flow. It takes me out of where I was. Here's my calling area here. So I'll go from line 14, if I was going to trace my code, to line 18. It starts running everything in line 18. And when I'm done, line 18, if I'm done all this logic, when I'm done, and if I hit line 63, it takes me back up to line 15. So I've already finished executing line 14, it takes me to line 15. And that's it, my program's over, unless I have more statements after this.
Yeah, like in the line 15, it goes to line 15 after...
I could put more stuff in here in line 15.
Line
I could, yeah.
But the question is like, when you exit, don't we have like exit from the whole program rather than exiting from the loop?
Well, in effect, I am exiting from the program. The way I've written it is I'm exiting from the program. But
like,
this is the way I've written it. So in your case, you can make it so that I exit from the whole program too. In effect, I do exit from the whole program because I'm not doing anything else, right?
do you have like a pre-built exit function or something?
So if I do something, that's a very good question. If I do system, right, and if I look to see if there's an exit, is it, or a system.quit, some kind of function that quits me out, system.out doesn't do that, right? So there is no system command that exits. How about a system.stop? A lot of times they have different commands, right? But right now with the imports that we're using, we don't have a way of exiting the code of the program other than finishing off our code. When we go to UI, when we do some UI stuff, there will be ways of exiting and stopping our code. For now, there isn't. Let's go back to file reading for a second, right? So we did this file directory listing, and I'm sure you guys had fun with playing around with that. Does it exist? We want to delete the file. We can do that. We can get files. We can get last access time. We can get last write time. We can move the files. But how do we, in your code, I've asked you guys to read a file from your folder somewhere within your code. How do we get there, right? That's something we have to figure out. You can figure that out, again, on MSDN if you want to as we continue. Let's take a look at this structure. So here's something that's a little different. Businesses, it says, store data in a relationship known as a data hierarchy, right? A character, of course, is any of the letters and numbers. And characters are made up of bytes, 8 bits. And then you have ASCII type characters containing 1 byte and Unicode characters containing 2 bytes. So different kinds of characters. So here's an example. Your file is called personnel file. Inside your file, you have a record called Lee, another record called Smith, right? Inside the Lee record, you have a field of employee number, a last name, and a salary. And inside your last name, you have the character L, the character E, and the character E, which is the name Lee, right? So this is your hierarchy in terms of personnel file relationships, right? If you have these data components inside your file. But your file has to be structured somehow. So here's something we're going to talk about. There's fields, there are records, and the data file itself consists of all these related records. So far what we've been doing is we've just been reading a file. But here we're talking about sequential access file, which is a type of file that is read in order for us to have a specific position. Let's take a look at how to do that. So when we open up a file in C#, right, we're actually creating an object and storing it. We're creating the file object when we actually open up a file. Right now, all we've checked to see is, does the file exist? We haven't opened a file up yet. We haven't tried to read from a file. All we've tried to do is see, does the file exist? Yes? Cool. Give me some stats about the file. That's what we're doing. So how do we do that? Well, we have something called this input stream. There's an input stream that comes into the application, and the output stream leaves the application and goes back to the file system. All right, so these are two files, the two streams, the input stream and the output stream. A stream is a array, if you will, of characters and data that comes at us. That's what we're doing. So we're just kind of picking up all these different piece parts to the file, and we're accumulating these things inside of an array or some other kind of structure. Okay, so here's some examples of from the console. If we do a console.in, right, which is a little bit weird, I can accept data from the keyboard. Console.out allows the program to produce output on the screen, because our output is the screen, our input is the keyboard in this particular case, right? And of course we can throw an error as well. We can write error messages to the screen with a console.error. If that's true, then if I say a console.out, if I want to send something to the screen, let me just put this something before my menu, because I've got my main menu, I don't want to mess with that. And if I do a console.out, here's a console.out, and can I put a quotation mark in here? Let me see what the console.out takes as its method. It says cannot be used like a method. I mean, it does work, but I can't do a system.console.out. It doesn't work like that, right? Is it therefore a property? Can I kind of use it like a property? System.console.out is a property, but is used like a type. So if anything, I've got to kind of define an object of system or console.out. Okay, interesting. So you can't just do a console.out and it prints to the screen like our WriteLine does. We have WriteLine for that. All right, we also have these three different classes. Okay, these are really important. So let's take a look here. So one of is this Streamreader, right? It allows us to get text input from a file, and Streamwriter, which allows us to write text to a file. These are the two classes you need for assignment number 5, right? You need to be able to read the file, get stuff into it, and if I need to write the file, I haven't asked you guys to write really. I just asked you to create the file, right? But writing the file actually sends text out to the file. And the file stream is for both input and output to a file if you want to use this file stream class. Okay, and of course there's a couple of things here. My properties, can read, gets a value indicating whether the current file system supports reading. Can seek, can write, a length, gets the length of the file stream in bytes. Name, gets the name of the file stream that we set up, right? And the position, sets the current position of the file stream because it's a pointer to look at which file you're looking at, right? We can also do things like this, append, which opens the file if it exists and seeks the end of the file to append new data, right? That's different than create. Create creates a new file, and if the file already exists, it will overwrite it, right? Or you can create a new file. And if it already exists, if you use the create new, then you get this IO exception, right? We can open a file, right? Opening a file opens an existing file, and if the file does not exist, then this exception is thrown, right? Well, what would we do first? We check to see if the file exists by file.exists. That's the first thing we should do without any kind of error handling right now, right? If it doesn't exist, we should send a note back to the user saying doesn't exist. We don't have to do a try-catch block here, right? And then if it does exist, we can actually do the opening, right? That's what we should do. So almost like an if statement, if you will, which is just like a try-catch. If you want to use try-catch or if, same thing in this particular case. Truncate opens an existing file, but once it's open, the file is truncated to whatever size we indicate in 0 to 0. Its size is 0 bytes. We kind of make it small. Here's read. We're going to read data from the file. Read write, which is we want to read from and writing to the file. We can kind of read and write to the file, or we can just write to the file. Different ways of, these are all methods of the file access stream. Okay, here's some examples. And again, let's just check the time because I know we're running close to the end. 10:20. I'm going to leave it here. We're going to come back to this next week, right? I don't want to rush you guys. All right, I want you to understand all these piece parts. Today, my scope was really to kind of put together a menu system for you guys. You need this for your assignment, right? We're going to talk about file stuff again next week, which is closer to when your file stuff is due, right? And right now we're sitting at this Streamreader is equal to new Streamreader. We're going to actually create this new object. See, if you notice, file stream is an out file, where we're going to create a new file. It says file stream is some text, whatever the text file is, and we're using this file mode create file access write. We're giving it a couple of options here in my file stream method, right? This is actually the constructor of the file stream class. So my out file has certain properties that I'm assigning with this constructor signature, right? And then what we're doing is once we have this file stream, we create our new file. Here's our file that's created. We're going to use this Streamreader, a writer, to create our new file. So here's our out file. We've created the object, but we haven't really written to it until we get to this next line. Streamreader writer is equal to new Streamreader, right? So there's some stuff to look at here and to explore, but I don't want to do it in a rush. I want to talk about this with you guys next week. Yes?
What are the other file types other than the text file we can create or modify?
Binary type files. Binary files. Yeah.
That's it?
Well, there's two types. So there's text or not, right? So now there's certain types of text files. There's JSON files. There's JavaScript files. The endings tell us what you can do with them, but really at the end of the day, they're just text files. You can read HTML files, JavaScript files, CS files. All those things are just text, right, with a special ending. So, and the other stuff is binary, where you can't read it inside an editor, right? Okay, and that's it for today.